Hey, everybody, welcome back into another edition of the drbicuspid.com podcast. My name is Kevin Henry, editor-in-chief for Dr. Bicuspid. So glad you've joined us. Part of the series that we are doing in conjunction with SprintRay to discuss digital workflow, 3D printing, and what you need to know about this great technology for your dental practice. And I'm thrilled to welcome back for this discussion, Dr. Meena Barsoum. Dr. Barsoum, how are you?
Hi, Kevin. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you back. So many people know you through the CDOCS clinical tips that we have on drbicuspid.com. But for those who don't, do you mind just introducing yourself?
Sure. Yeah. My name is Dr. Meena Barsoum. I'm a practicing clinician here in Chicago, Illinois. I've been in practice a little over 17 years. And a little over a year ago, I joined SprintRay as the global head of clinical strategy. And my role there is to help drive the clinical workflows that we built at SprintRay and make sure that they are valuable to our customers and our dentists, and make sure that we are truly driving dentistry forward. And I'm excited to be part of the impact that we're creating here at SprintRay.
Well, I'm excited to have you on and excited again to be doing this series with SprintRay. We're going to link to previous episodes in the show notes, or if you're watching this on Dr. Bicuspid, it's in the article, so very easy to find. Dr. Barsoum, I know today we're going to talk about from lab to chairside, how digital workflows are reshaping dentistry. And I'm just going to ask you the big 30,000-foot view question. We've talked about digital workflows, it feels like, for years. But are we at that age where things are really changing for the dental practice?
Yeah, I mean, I think we turned a corner just a few years ago when AI really started to become part of the conversation in dentistry and in chairside. And I spent my career teaching dentists how to learn CAD software, how to learn CAM software. And that was always a hurdle. It was something where you buy this expensive equipment and you don't really know how to use it. And you have to learn a whole new language. You have to learn a whole new workflow. And it can sometimes be an interruption in the practice versus a benefit. And I think, one of the benefits now is, the learning curve is so small. I mean, it's the curve has, flattened out so much that you bring the technology in, and, the workflows we built at SprintRay handle everything for you. So you don't have to learn how to design a crown, for example. It just gives you something that works, and you make some small tweaks and you hit print. So you don't have to learn how to nest things so much. It's all done automatically. And I think that's really where the change has come in the last, we'll call it 5 to 6 years post-COVID, where AI really became part of the conversation in dentistry.
I know for years, the typical dental strategy was the dentist had the relationship with the lab. They worked together to create some beautiful pieces of art for the mouth. But are you seeing that shift going away where dentists are maybe working with their labs now, but they're also very interested in what comes next and maybe how they could shift away from that?
Yeah, I think the relationship with the lab has to change. And I think the labs that are embracing the concept of design services and, treatment planning and, basically being a partner in the chairside manufacturing are the ones that are thriving. My interactions with my lab are very much so, here's a case, let's treatment plan it. Let's figure out where we're going to go. Please create a mock-up or a wax-up or a trial smile for me. And then I print it in my office and deliver it. Same day conversion. Like, I do a lot of full arch dentistry and all NX conversions. And I think that's where the lab really comes into play. I do the surgery and then they do the design, and then I print it in the office. So I think the labs that are embrace that type of relationship are the ones that are going to continue to grow. Allow the dentist to manufacture chairside. That's what the patient wants. That's what the dentists are doing, but become an ally and an advocate on the design side.
If a dentist is shifting away from the traditional way that he or she worked with a lab, what kind of implementation does that look like? Maybe 30, 60, 90 days out? And how much of a mental shift is that, in your opinion?
I think the biggest shift for dentists is going away from the two-visit procedure to the single visit procedure. And that's the hardest thing for them to kind of really wrap their mind around. And whenever I train someone and onboard them into technology like this, I always advise them, don't make a change yet. If you're used to making provisionals, make a provisional, still make it, and then send them home. But instead of having them come back in 2 weeks, they could come back in a week or tomorrow or in a couple days. It gives you time to work through a design, work through a chairside manufacturing process, and still deliver the prosthetic in-house. And usually I find within 2 or 3 weeks, they're like, all right, we're good. We don't need a second visit. And then they're building everything in. Many of us schedule the same amount of time anyway. If you're scheduling 60 minutes for prep and 30 minutes for delivery, just schedule 90 minutes and do the whole thing in one day. And you'll find that your case acceptance goes up and the whole experience just becomes better for everyone involved.
When you work with other dentists out there, is one of the biggest hurdles they have to overcome with this adoption of technology just getting out of the comfort zone and the way that they've always done things?
I mean, I'm a dentist. I'll speak to dentistry. We are stubborn individuals and we get stuck in our ways and we get stuck in what we like. And how dare you tell me to use a new bonding agent or a new cement or a new anything? Like this is what I know. And I think getting dentists to understand that this is going to improve their outcomes, improve the health of their practice, of their patients, of their team members, and the enjoyment of their team members. That's really the biggest hurdle. It used to be a cost story. It used to be a return on investment. I can't afford a six-figure, chairside milling machine and scanner. I can't afford this, and my practice isn't growing enough. And now that cost is a tenth of that. And I think that the cost story has gone away and it's more helping them understand that, yes, you have to pivot your workflows a little bit and your scheduling, but the return on it from a satisfaction perspective and a patient experience perspective is worth it.
You mentioned the team members, and we know how critical a team member buy-in is with the adoption of any new workflow or technology or anything like that. How have you found that team members are buying in whenever something like this is introduced?
The most successful implementations. And so in my role, I deal with a lot of, larger groups, DSOs, even private clinicians, and I'm involved with some of the onboarding. The ones that do the best, the ones that are most successful are when the doctor or the owner is partnering with the team member to learn this together. I think the situations where it tends to not work well is, all right, I just bought this piece of technology. Hey, Susie, I'm going to give this to you, figure it out. And Susie doesn't have the expertise and the access to knowledge that I do. And if I don't partner with her and learn it together and make this a team approach, it's never going to succeed. So I always encourage any dentist or anybody who's buying technology, make sure that the provider and the team member are doing the cases together. And eventually you can, offload some of the responsibility to that team member. But once you've onboarded them correctly. So that's always my advice to anyone coming on board, learn it together.
I started with a 30,000-foot view question. I'm going to end with one as well, if that's all right. Are we nearing the day when 3D printing is the gold standard for a dental practice?
I think we are right on the heels of it. And I think at this point, the technology exists. The Midas, for example, our digital press technology can press highly filled ceramic materials. So now what needs to catch up is the material piece. And I have a little bit more insight than most in terms of what's coming. And what I can tell you from our 70% ceramic material that's launching later this year to even stronger materials that are in the pipeline. As the materials catch up to the technology, then this is going to become as you call it, the gold standard. I mean, we call it Midas for a reason, right? King Midas. And, I think it's truly replacing what gold was back in the 70s and 80s. And now it's, white gold that we can print. And I think that's the standard that all of us are going to hopefully be using in the next 5 to 10 years.
Dr. Barsoum, I enjoyed the conversation today, but I want to make sure if people want to learn more, where's a good place to do that?
Two good places to learn. First, our website, SprintRay.com. We have an entire educational platform that has on-demand education, recorded webinars, videos galore. So you can learn everything about our hardware and our software solutions. Best way to learn about Midas is to join one of our Midas tour events. We have 70 locations worldwide this year, and it's a hands-on, full-day immersive experience. I encourage you to find one that's near you or find one that's somewhere fun. I'm trying to go to Japan and Australia so come join me for one of those if you want. But hands-on full day experience, that's going to be the best way to really understand the technology.
Doesn't sound like a bad plan at all. I like where you're thinking
Yeah.
there. No, I appreciate the time. And again, want to remind our viewers and our listeners that this is part of a series. We have links to the previous episodes in the show notes, as well as to the SprintRay links that Dr. Barsoum just mentioned. We'll make sure that those are in the show notes and in the article here on Dr. Bicuspid as well. So Dr. Barsoum, again, thanks for your time. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you, Kevin.
And thanks to all of you for listening to this episode of the drbicuspid.com podcast in conjunction with SprintRay. We'll be back soon with another episode, but until then, take care, and we're wishing you nothing but success ahead.